Hello and welcome to another new episode of Learning Simplified. In this tutorial, we will see how to loop a grid into another grid in UI semantic language. Stay tuned. Now, in our previous tutorial, so far we had seen how to create containers and how to create those entire grid system into the container that we have created. Now, in this tutorial, all we are going to do, we will try to loop a grid inside another grid that we have created earlier. First of all, let's create a separate container. So as we had mentioned earlier, we will now be creating another grid system here. So we have created this container, and inside this container we will be creating this grid, and in the next case we will be mentioning that this grid will be, so we are mentioning that this grid is practically 2-column grid. That means the available space within this grid will be divided between two equal width columns. Now inside this grid, let's create the row first in the first place. This is the column 1, where we will mention, in the first case there will be a button with a class of so this is the first column where we had created this individual fluid button, and in the second case this is the div. This is the second column element, and we won't be inserting any kind of fluid button right over here. And in the next case, first of all, let's make this thing, let's use this class divided. So press Ctrl S in the first place, get back to your project and reload, and we can see that this will be the result. So we have practically created a container with two individual columns in it. Now in the next case, all we are going to do, we can see that we have practically created an empty column where we had inserted nothing practically. Now in this column, all we are going to do, let's create another grid and see whether it is working or not. So we had created a grid right over here. Here goes the part where we have practically created a grid. We'll be adding our own comment right over here. Now we need to create the row element, and as usual we will be creating some columns inside. For say this is 2 column, or you may put it here 3 column. So this is a 3-column grid which is being created inside another grid, another parent grid that we had created earlier. Now as we have mentioned that this is a 3-column grid, so in the first case we will be creating a div class for say column. First of all, let's put a button element. We'll be creating a button class. Button class. And in the similar fashion, we'll be creating some more buttons here, precisely 2 more buttons. As we had mentioned that this will be a 3 column, so there will be 3 buttons created into this particular grid, into the looping grid that we had created inside a parent grid. So this will be 2 2, and in the next case there will be another button which will be naming as 2 3. So we had created practically another grid inside a parent grid, and we had created three separate or individual buttons inside that particular grid. Now if we press Ctrl S and head back to our project and reload, and now we can see that the second grid, it is divided into three equal width columns, and we can see that there are some particular buttons inside, but these individual button elements, those are practically been created into an entirely different or separate grid that we had looped inside a main grid right over here. Now if we head back to the main parent grid, and here if we mention a definite color class over here for this second column element, like we are using this olive color class, and we can see that this will be the obvious result. So right now we are confirmed that we are practically able to loop a grid inside another grid, and we are practically able to insert any kind of elements, whether it is a header tag or whether it is a paragraph or any kind of text elements inside that individual or particular grid that we had created in the second order. And another thing, we are talking about making the page responsive. So if we press Ctrl Shift M, we can see that this will be the result. So in this particular case, for this low mobile responsive view, all we can do, let's head back to our text editor here, and here we may apply the stackable class, which will stack all the contents one over another. We have used the UI semantics stackable class right into the main or parent grid element that we had created earlier. So definitely both the columns, these two columns, it should be stacked one over another. And if we head back to our project and reload, we can see that this will be the obvious result for low mobile responsive device display width. Now for say the 768 pix, this will be the result. This is the breakpoint has been defined in UI semantic, and we can see that everything goes fine at this particular resolution. So we don't need to make any kind of changes right over here. But for this lower device display below 768 pix, we can see that all those contents are practically stacked one over another. And if we wish to stack these individual columns one over another, we know the drill how to do it. All we need to do, we need to use the same stackable class. Press Ctrl C, 3 column, and here into this second grid that we have created, we'll be using the same stackable class. Now press Ctrl S, head back to your project and reload, and we can see that this will be the obvious result. So this is it for this tutorial. Hope you guys have liked this tutorial. If you guys have liked this tutorial, then do not hesitate to hit that red subscribe button down below. Hope to see you guys in our next tutorial. Till then,